Most of us were probably smacked as a child, but that could soon change. Wales could be the first country in the UK to ban parents from smacking their children. In a moment, I'll be exploring what it would all mean for parents, but first, Max Walsh has been looking at the debate.
Any mother will tell you there is no magic formula to being a good parent. And when you have 4 children to nurture, as well as tidy up after, discipline is key.
The facts are in life that there are negative consequences for defiant or dangerous behaviours, and we feel it's our responsibility that the child learns that in this world. For some children at a young age, we believe that a single light smack on the hand or bottom is actually the kindest, most effective way to teach those boundaries, and that those boundaries are there for their good and their protection.
Sally says these are rare moments, but parents shouldn't be punished for it.
There is the world of difference between a calm act of loving discipline and an angry lashing out in violence. I think prosecutors and ordinary people know the difference, and that parents who are using smacking in a responsible, loving way should not be criminalised for doing so.
Faye from Ebervale disagrees. With 3 children, 2 of which are autistic, she's had to overcome more challenges than most. She says attitudes have changed in her 20 years as a mother, and so should the law.
Years ago, it wasn't so frowned upon then, you know, to just say, have a smack, you know. My son, my oldest one, would probably say he's never been smacked. I think I probably did when he was younger, but smacking back then, for me, even as a young parent, yeah, it was kind of normal. Do you say normal? Yeah, I suppose it was. Whereas now it's not so normal, is it?
Whichever side of the debate you sit on, with broad cross-party support, it's possible this bill could become law in the next 12 months. If passed, it will also be the first time the Welsh Government has changed core criminal law separate to England. But critics say this is an unnecessary change and is simply punishing parents who have their children's best interests at heart. Assembly member Julie Morgan has been campaigning for this law for the last 2 decades, but insists parents aren't being asked to change.
Well, we're not telling them to stop parenting in whatever way they choose or disciplining their children, but what we're saying is that we don't think there's a place for physical punishment of children today in Wales in the 21st century. It's not something that we want to happen. We want a Wales where children grow up to their full potential, and we don't see that physical punishment has got a place.
Yet here is precisely the problem. If physical punishment against children is no longer acceptable, then why do some still see it, in its lightest form, as a useful tool? Max Walsh, ITV News, Cardiff.
Well, to discuss this further, joining me now is Sally Gobbett, who's a parent of 4 young children, who's against the change in the law. I'm also joined by Katie O'Connell, who's a family law solicitor. Thanks very much to both of you for coming in. Sally, let's start with you. We saw you there in Max's report. You do smack your children. Why should parents be allowed to do that?
Well, I think parents should be able to choose from a range of options when bringing up their children. I don't think it's for politicians to dictate a particular way of parenting, but the options we choose from should be not methods which are going to cause harm to children. And what is important is that the government's own consultation has clearly shown that there is no evidence linking the use of light, infrequent, loving physical discipline in the context of a warm parenting dynamic to any harmful outcomes in children. What it does show is that any form of discipline, whether it be timeout or verbal or the removal of privileges or isolation, if used harshly or excessively in an angry way, will also harm children. So it's not so much about the method of discipline, it's about the way in which a parent administers it.
Just on that point, Katie, there is of course a law that stops any kind of abuse against children. If this new law is passed, just how easy will it be to differentiate between, you know, say a tap on the hand and more serious forms of smacking and leading to abuse?
Yeah, that is a real difficulty. At the moment, there's a defence for reasonable chastisement, and that dates back to Victorian times. And so I think we'll still have the issue of determining what is a tap and what is a smack. I still think that issue will still be there. It is a subjective point of view.
But parents could potentially be prosecuted for just smacking a child on the hand.
That's right, yeah, the defence would be removed, so it could result in a criminal conviction.
What does that make you feel, Sally? I mean, you know, if this law is passed, you would be committing a criminal offence by tapping your child on the hand?
Yeah, well, I think it's worthwhile pointing out that the defence they want to remove has not actually been used in Wales to acquit a parent of assaulting a child for the last decade, not once. So really this is a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Thousands of parents are prosecuted rightly every year for acting in violence towards their children.
Are you worried though that using violence as discipline could then lead to your child being violent to others, that you're demonstrating to them a violent act?
I would never use violence to discipline my child. There is a categorical difference between violence, which is intended by definition to harm or intimidate or cause pain, and loving discipline, which is intended to protect the child from worse natural consequences should they continue with a defiant or dangerous behaviour.
I wonder, Katie, how the police could enforce this.
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult, particularly as if it goes on behind closed doors, perhaps the only witness will be the child themselves, and whether they'll say anything, it could be down to teachers to see if there's any marks on children, and then it will be difficult to establish the evidence, you know, to carry it through to a conviction. And it's just whether the police would have the resources as well to be able to cope with a potential influx of new allegations that are being made and cases they'll need to investigate.
I guess many parents would argue too that, you know, bringing up children is a private family experience, and this is, you know, bringing the law into that.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's more guidance that the law is trying to achieve, rather than dictating how a parent should raise their children and how they should discipline them.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there.
Thank
Sally
you.
and Katie, thank you very much for
Thank
speaking to
you.
me.